the blue tack. Thank you for putting this in front of me, though, because I've been fiddling with this since the start of it.
I know.
And you see me in the cinema, I'm like...
Yeah, I put that there specifically because I thought Alex is going to want to fiddle with something. And I thought the fidget cube I have is going to be too loud.
That sounds awful. Please edit that out.
Fine, well, if I do that.
There we go, I can't see myself.
Now we can't see ourselves. Awesome, easy peasy.
Happy days.
Well, we are here for an in-person genuine chit-chat, which does not happen that often, because normally most of my guests are on Zoom and that kind of jazz. But here with me is Alex Hart, who has been on the pod since the really early days, actually.
Hello.
Normally talk about movies and stuff, and that's what we're going to do today. Because today we watched Dune Part 2, so I think we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But Alex actually offered himself up on this one. He said, I'm back in the UK after some of my travels and things, and if you want to do a movie pod, we can. So it's kind of the last couple years, I guess, of movies. So I think we just kick things off straight away with the biggest movie event probably in the last, I'd probably say 5 years. Probably since Infinity War, the biggest movie event's probably Barbenheimer, I'd say.
Yeah, I would agree.
What did you think of Barbenheimer? Were you excited? Like before Barbenheimer was really a thing, were you looking forward to Barbie and Oppenheimer respectively, and were they good?
I was really excited for Oppenheimer. I knew kind of where I was going to be to see it, so that was kind of a nice thing because I knew I was going to be in America to watch it, and I was excited for that because sometimes I feel really excited when I get to see a film in a specific location. And for me, even though it was actually quite a small cinema in in America, it was a really cool experience. With Barbie, we tried to see both on the same weekend, but because of bookings and stuff, we ended up seeing, I think, Barbie after Oppenheimer.
Yeah, we did the same, I think.
Yeah, but I didn't have too much of an expectation for Barbie. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really kind of look too deep into it. I was just like, okay, I'm looking forward to this movie. It's quite a big event. And I ended up enjoying both of them. I ended up enjoying Barbie the second time I watched it more so than I did the first time. I still enjoyed it during the cinema, but I think I missed some of the stuff during watching it initially. So it was really cool to, I recently watched it at Christmas with my parents.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
so that was a really cool, and, to have a conversation with my mum about it after, because there is quite a lot of, the
history of it.
The history, and also like feminine plays a huge role within it. For someone, my mum who grew up in the 50s and can remember going through, she didn't say she didn't have Barbie, but she had the UK equivalent of it, which I can't remember what it was called, but there was that whole doll phase during the 60s and 70s or whenever it was, and it was cool to have that conversation. But with Oppenheimer, I absolutely adored it. I loved it. It was such a cool experience. Sold out cinema.
In the cinema with that sound effect. You got to have it in the cinema.
Oh, yeah. No, this is it. And I think for me, it's one of those films that I could rewatch it. I could, if I had a big enough screen and 4K and, surround sound, it would make it good. But if you were to watch it like on Netflix on your phone, you would probably enjoy it, but you wouldn't ever get the full experience of it. And I think that's a big part of the movie for me.
And cinema experiences in general. That's why we like to go. That's when we saw Dune, obviously. It's the sound design, especially someone like Nolan.
Oh, yeah. And they always amplifies the experience for you. I think that's something why I love the cinema so much, because it does make it so intense and you're stuck in it. Because I admit, when I watch films at home and stuff, I will often check my phone or reply to a text and stuff, and even just literally replying to a text can take you out the whole thing. So not having as soon as I get into a cinema, you always know me, I just turn my phone straight off, because I'm like, I want to be here. Even for the fucking car trailers, I'm down for seeing it and being experienced
trailers, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm getting really empathetic towards the Volvo fucking car trailers.
And the Audi ones with Georgia Smith and stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm like, oh man, I've seen this 18 times, but I'm still shedding a tear to you, Georgia Smith.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? I love the cinema experience as well. My thing is, I don't generally message while I watch films, but I obsessively look up who's in it. So I'll be like, oh, that actor. Oh, I really like them. What's their name? What films have they been in? Who's the director of this film? What have they made? What other films? And I end up doing that, and I have to stop myself doing it. Whereas in the cinema, obviously, I just don't touch my phone at all. It's one of those. And with Barbie, I was more excited for Barbie than Oppenheimer, because I saw the trailer and I was like, it just looks quite different and refreshing in a way. I think it's because we've been so starved of comedy films. In the last 5 years, I can only think of Game Night, Book Smart, and Barbie. I'm sure there are a few others, but actual comedies that really make you laugh. Yeah. That aren't like a kid's film that's kind of funny, or a horror film that's got funny elements, or like a people film that's got a couple of funny jokes, like an actual comedy film.
Comedy film, yeah. I can't think of any more either, to be honest. Yeah. I love Game Night. I think that's a tremendous movie.
Brilliant movie.
And how they filmed it is incredible as well.
And Booksmart's ace as well.
Booksmart. Ladybird. I feel like I went in 2000.
Well, we watched that recently. Obviously, Chalamet as well. Dune Part 2. I think it's got comedic elements, but again, I'd put that in the same kind of camp as Are You There, God It's Me, Margaret, and Way, Way Back, and those kind of coming of age movies where they are funny. There's funny parts of them, but they're not like a comedy. Like you won't watch Ladybird. You won't go, I'm really in the mood for some belly laughs. No, Ladybird.
No. I think there's a drama with comedy elements, or just real life drama, which includes comedy. No, but yeah, comedy movies. You know, Kevin Hart brings out films all the fucking time. Dwayne The Rock Johnson does a lot of comedy films.
Jumanji, maybe. I think Jumanji 1 was quite funny, but I
enjoyed the first one.
Family adventure
hated
film.
The second one, so I wouldn't class that as a comedy.
I think we started the second one and just didn't.
No, it's absolute dog shit. No, but yeah, I enjoyed the first one. But yeah, no comedy films. I can't think. And also for me, comedy films I don't feel like I need to see in the cinema a lot of the time.
Agreed.
Unless it's something that I'm really looking forward to, or you know, but it's very rare that I go, I really want to see this comedy movie. I can't think of that.
You don't really get hyped for comedy movies, really.
No, it's only if I like a specific actor I know it's going to be good in that sense. Like, I know this person's going to be in it, and so I'll go see it for that reason. But there's never like a Kevin Hart movie that comes out, like Ride Along, and I'm like, fuck me, this film's going to change my life. I'm so excited to see Ride Along, or any of those fucking movies.
Yeah, Kevin Hart churns them out. It was the same like Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah.
Although he's not necessarily that funny, it's just like...
They do churn Kevin Hart movies out, don't they?
I think he's the wealthiest stand-up comedian of all, like in the moment, at least in the world, because not only does his stand-up tour sell out because everyone knows him, but also because he makes so much money from films. Yeah. I think The Rock's pretty close, but I think Kevin Hart makes more money than him.
Actually now sound. Have you seen the podcast with Cat Williams?
No, I've heard about that.
He's talking about Kevin Hart, we actually sound just like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about how his... So let's try and avoid that because we're looking like we're copywriting Cat Williams.
I'll have to check what
he's spoke. Yeah,
I heard about Cat Williams talking about that kind of like. There was a podcast that he did that everyone was like super into.
Yeah, I don't know. I watched it and I was just like, it's your personal opinion, a lot of this. So like,
I got nothing against Kevin Hart to be clear.
No, neither do I.
He does some cool films. Like, there's a few, but it's like it's like Nick Cage. Mm-hmm. Nick Cage has got some bangers in there, but if you actually do of all the films he's made, and you actually like average them out, you would get a net negative, I think. And that's the problem as well with Kevin Hart and Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Like, when you make that many films, unless you're Timothy Chalamet at the moment, you just can't make that many good films.
No.
Maybe Chalamet's an absolute... Basically, Chalamet seems to be in every film that's over a certain budget at the moment.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's weird, though, with comedy films. They go through actor stages, right? So you'll have, like, a specific period where it'll be just that actor in those comedy movies. So it used to be Will Ferrell.
Yeah, then it was Seth Rogen.
Then it was Seth Rogen. And, you know, they did have crossover points where there's years where everybody had films. I think we're coming out of the Kevin Hart era. I think we're moving on to someone else now. And I don't know who that would be to take that next kind of position. But definitely Will Ferrell. Because then you look at the 90s, it was definitely the one that did the... Jesus Christ, what's the film called? The Christmas Vacation movies.
Oh, Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase.
Yes, it was kind of late 80s as you go into the 90s.
So there's always one person who's made that transition from comedy into film. Then he'll burn the shit out of films. First ones will be really good. Then it will start going downhill. Then there'll be like
Steve
a period.
Martin. I think he was one of them as well.
Steve Martin,
Steve Martin, I think in the 90s. Because from Planes, Trains and Cheaper up to Cheaper than a Dozen, that kind of period.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Trains, Planes, 2, I was going to say Cheaper by the Dozen 2, which is still an enjoyable movie. Everything else after that's dog shit for me. I can't remember. But yeah, then it transitions. I don't know who the next comedy person will be to take that kind of podium.
Because it's always an American, isn't it? Because although there's funny British people, generally you find they do quirky little sitcoms, panel shows, or stand-up. Yeah. You know, and you get them on Taskmaster or 8 Hour 10 Casters Countdown or QI, stuff like that. But you don't get... There's not that many British actors that really... I think Simon Pegg's probably the closest we have.
I would say so, but I think
he doesn't do comedies anymore, really.
No, and also, his ones were made early 2000s and early 10s.
Yeah, and he made some good ones. Like, although that Shaun of the Dead was so massive, Simon Pegg and Spaced and Edgar Wright, they were kind of not fringe, but people would have seen Shaun of the Dead, but they didn't know anything about Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and that kind of ensemble, especially with Daisy. what's her face, who's in Spaced. You know, that kind of collection of people who are all just British hilarity. And just because Shaun of the Dead skyrocketed above everything else at that time, it kind of made the umbrella effect around Hot Fuzz, at World's End, Spaced. And then obviously when Scott Pilgrim came out, Edgar Wright kind of got somewhat separated from Simon Pegg being in that thing.
I just had a thought about another comedy actor, the British one. But
Ricky Gervais, probably.
Yeah, he did. So he had a weird point, didn't he? So obviously, you had Simon Pegg who went into those films. So then he had, because he had Space, Shaun Dead, the stuff that he was doing with Edgar Wright. Then he had a period of time where he was making some British comedy films. So he did Run Fat Boy Run.
Yes.
And a really good film that no one has seen is How to Lose Friends and Alienate People.
See, I've got that, but I didn't like it. I got it on DVD, but I actually like it.
I actually thoroughly enjoyed it.
I thought you were going to say Fear of Everything.
Fear of Everything, yeah, it's okay. I don't mind.
It's not that funny, no.
But then, not Simon Pegg, Ricky Gervais did very similar, where he had Ghost Town, which actually I don't think is a bad film at all.
Invention of Lion. And
he did a couple other ones, but they have these transition period British comedy.
Bill Murray, 90s, that's another one.
Bill Murray.
Because of Groundhog Day and Scrooge.
Yeah, those are heavyweight films. Yeah, we're probably absolutely
people are probably screaming at us, going,
yeah.
Why aren't you thinking of this person? But
it's hard when you're on the spot. Is that rain, by the way?
No, that's the sound of the laptop, because our conversation is so fiery hot and it's so good. The
weather's really good shit today. But yeah, no, there's probably people that are really fuming that we've missed out, and we're just generalising a lot of stuff. But we are also just having a chat about films at the top of our head.
We're basically just having a normal conversation we normally have, but we're just recording it for you guys. Because Megan actually gets a bit annoyed. Not annoyed, but sometimes when we hang out, she's just like, right, they're talking about movies for the next hour.
Yeah, and there's literally nothing written on this piece of paper, which is a notebook. There's a few things on it, like how long is Alex's nipples? But other than that, there's nothing else written on that.
That's Patreon-only content, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Exclusive.
If you sign up, you'll get a decent glimpse of my dangly nipples.
They're really long. They kind of sway in the wind.
Yeah, tie them up.
I think what happened though with comedy is, I think the problem is film, like MCU movies kind of, there's a period of time from sort of the late 2000s to now really, or sort of 2020, where because comedy was changing, because of the people being more progressive, you couldn't punch down as much with a lot of comedy. It removed a lot of elements of comedy from the roster, so people had to be more original with stuff. And then what was happening is, because the MCU they got films like Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man that lean more into the comedy, but all of the films have got elements of comedy, and so people are having to go to the cinema 2 to 4 times a year just to keep up with the MCU, and then some of the DC stuff, or some other superhero-ish stuff, or family adventure films like Jumanji. What's happening is, because you'll be going to the cinema 5 times a year, and you'd be seeing family-ish, friendly comedy adventure movies. Yeah. No one had the appetite to go, I now just want to watch a comedy film. They're like, I want to watch something serious. And I think that's where Nolan, Fincher, and people like that have really, and even Scorsese kind of made a comeback, because the last few films he's made, people are actually excited about it again.
For sure.
And I think that comes from, because comedy is kind of being touched in other ways. And I think the sitcoms as well, because streaming has come into a thing. The Office, Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, these kind of American sitcoms, that's the new age of sitcoms since, the 90s of Friends and Seinfeld and stuff. It's just that weird thing where I think the comedy bone was being tickled by the sitcoms and by adventure movies and family stuff. And because of streaming as well, as you say, people need a real reason to go to the cinema now. And because films come out on streaming so quickly after.
2-3 weeks now, they do a home premiere. You pay extortionate money for that.
It's 10 to 15 quid.
Some of them are $19.99 now.
I get insulted by that, because you can buy the Blu-ray for that.
Yeah, I know, it's bullshit. But yeah, no, I do agree with you there. They're getting so much. Comedy can be easily done on TV.
Yeah, it's cross-pollination.
Yeah, and there's less risk, isn't there? If you make one bad episode of a whole series, you're not going to get that much in trouble. And normally there's an episode in most series that's a bit shite.
Yeah, especially American ones, because they're so long.
Oh my god, yeah. They just fill them with episodes. They have got better in recent years. But
it's because of the streaming thing. No one wants to necessarily watch 22 to 24 episodes.
Oh yeah.
That are an hour long.
Christ, man.
It's just too much
24.
What's that Vikings? Someone said to me that Vikings is really cool, but it's 7 seasons. It's 20, I think it's 18 to 20 episodes a season, and most of them are 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
So you're investing, I think I worked out to be about 12 to 14 hours per season. Yeah. There's 7 of them.
No.
That's nearly 100 hours on one show. That's 5 straight days of watching something. Yeah, when do we get, a couple of hours in the evening, maybe?
I feel like it's like a day job sometimes when you're starting a new series that you know is a heavy house. I often go back to The Sopranos. I've watched it 3 or 4 times, but I won't watch it I will just watch it episode a couple episodes here and there, and throughout the year I might get most of the way through it, and then sometimes I don't even finish the end of it. I'll go back to the start again. It's like that because some of them are so heavyweight. Like I finished Lost this year. Well, no, I finished Lost in
late last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I watched the last couple on my way back from Morocco. So I started it with my sister. Started last year because I've watched Lost. This is the third time I've watched it around fully, and it took so much. And I was working in America, and especially when I first got to America for work, I was really putting in the hours after work to try and finish it because I was like, I want to enjoy my summer and I don't want to be thinking about Lost all the time.
And you also want to be like, if I want to be able to watch something else, I want to be able to watch something else.
Yeah,
you feel like we felt that with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like Megan had never seen it before, and I saw it once when I was a teenager. Really enjoyed it, but we got to about series 6. There's 24 episodes a season, all 45 minutes long. So there's 18 hours each season, so it is genuinely about 100 or so hours of watching. And when we got to like season 6, we were still really enjoying Buffy, but we were like, we just want to finish it now because we want to watch something else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's yeah,
That's
it is a dedication. That is it with movies. It's so easy to just pop them on and just like... My nose was leaking. Yeah, it's easier to just pop a movie on. For me, though, I've got to a point in the last couple of years, I take so long to choose a movie in the evenings. And my girlfriend knows this. Like, I don't know what I'm waiting for. Like, the right fucking wind or the furniture, the stars to align, the furniture to be right. You know what I mean? That one bit of food to go out a date by one day. And I'm just like, I don't know. I just take so long. Sometimes I'll do it before bed in the evenings. I'm like, I'm going to watch a film tonight. It's about 8 o'clock. That's good. I'll watch it now and it'll be about 10:30, 11 and I'll finish and stuff. I'll spend 2 hours choosing the fucking movie and then deciding it's way too late now to watch this movie. And then I don't watch anything. And this happens all the time. And I'm going through all the streaming services. I'm trying to find something and there's nothing.
Because they change as well. Because sometimes you go, oh, look, so-and-so's on Netflix. I'll note that down. And when I can watch it, I'll go to watch it. And then you go on Netflix, it's not there.
Yeah. And, I have got to a point where I'm really struggling to watch new movies. I think, we've
you've
talked
seen
about
so many of the heavy hitters. That's the problem. Almost all the best films people mentioned, you've seen.
Yeah, and I did spend a lot of, for college and, my early teens and stuff, really, really dedicating my time to watching so many movies. So now I'm going down obscure angles and trying to watch
A24, isn't
it? I've seen everything A24's done, but like even just like older, different. Like my girlfriend recommended that Polish movie Rage or Hate, I think it was called.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to kind of like, I've always watched foreign cinema, like Spanish movies, a lot of them. I've seen a lot of German movies, Scandinavian movies, English movies, if you can class us as European. Yeah, and now I get to a point where I just kind of have to start watching obscure stuff. If you look at my watch list on, sorry, I've just dropped some blue tack. Give me 2 seconds, guys.
You have to watch a lot of obscure movies. I mean, I find sometimes I'm in a similar boat, not because I've seen anywhere near as many movies as you, but I've seen a lot of heavy hitters. And now, I've got the 100 film list. I've got a list of films that you wrote for me, when we first met, which I think was like 8 or 9 years ago now. And there's another film list I made for myself when I was in college of all these big hitters. And it's a lot of them are like Alfred Hitchcock movies I haven't seen. And it's like... And like Casablanca, and certain films, Schindler's List, and I'm like, I do want to watch them, but because I know they're really a lot of them are really intense, a lot of the time quite long, and also quite depressing movies. When it gets to a workday evening, and me and Megan have just got time to spend with each other, we want to watch something more chilled out. And then on the weekend, when I want to watch a big hitter, it has to be like something I'm really wanted to watch, really, really gunning for.
Oh, definitely.
And that's also I have to watch a few doing podcasting as well. But sometimes I did it for a podcast, but I rewatched Trainspotting the other day. It is my favorite film of all time.
Wow.
I absolutely adore Trainspotting. It's so good. It's just like every time I watch it, I'm just like, I find it so hard to fault as a movie. And when Megan watched it, and we did an afterthoughts, that'll be out at some point soonish, in that she gave it 9 out of 10. She almost gives nothing 9 out of 10. And she said, it wouldn't be, for her, it's not a 10 out of 10 because she don't want to rewatch it over and over. It's quite a dark film. There's a lot of dark stuff that happens in it.
There is.
But as a film and as a thrill, how enjoyable it is to watch, how short it is, like how every scene means something, she's like 9 out of 10. Like you can't really criticize many elements of it because it's so good.
Yeah.
And that film and a couple of David Fincher movies you and I both agree on, like Social Network. Oh, what
man.
a film.
And people just don't get it. If
Nothing happens. I'm like, it's a film. Technically, nothing happens in any film because you're watching it. So
soundtrack's banging. The soundtrack is so good.
It's like how you make a film that's that tense when it's just talking. And
Isn't it Hans Zimmer that does the soundtrack?
I think so. And I think it's Hans Zimmer who does it for Dune as well. I think he works a lot with...
Dune, yeah, definitely.
I think he works a lot with Fincher.
Yeah.
But, oh, man. But there's just big films I want to watch, and I just don't want to watch... Yeah, there's certain films I'm like, I know I need to watch this film. I know I need to watch this film or that film, but Megan has to somewhat be on board.
Yeah.
Because it's like with Dune, like we were saying, like if you want to watch Dune... You have to actually want to watch it. You can't just put on Dune Part 1 in the background.
No, it's not a background movie.
You have to be, not only do you want to watch Dune, you can't really force anyone to watch it. They have to want to watch it and you have to give your full attention.
Yeah, no, Dune is a big hitter. And yeah, you can't just kind of willy-nilly it. You need to kind of get it.
It's like Interstellar.
I would love to show you can I show you some of my watch list on IMDb?
I'll do it. It's going to be weird.
Let me see if you know any of these movies. These are the ones that I've kind of added more recently, I'd say, that... Because I'm like, I see clips and stuff online. I'm like, I've never heard of this movie before.
Because you watched, that was that Sisu film, was it? That
was great.
Nazi gold film. Like, you watched that recently. I've also heard that, this feels like Nobody that I want to watch, that I've heard are just good action films.
Oh, that's a really good film. Yeah. Let me show you.
I just don't have time. I want to watch series. I want to read books. I want to spend time socializing. I want to go to the cinema. I want to do podcasting. It's like...
So I added a film called Cure the other day. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
1997 movie. I think it's... South Korean.
Okay. They do a lot of banging films.
They do. They did The Wailing and stuff.
Has to be something.
A frustrated detective deals with a case of severe gruesome murders committed by people who have no recollection of what they've done. Apparently it's very good. Look, 70 on Metascore, 7.5 on IMDb.
That's pretty good for like a small indie film.
There's a new film coming out that came out late last year. It's coming out this year called Late Night with the Devil.
Okay.
That's about like a 70s broadcasting station having someone on there that's been possessed by the devil. It looks really cool.
That's an interesting idea.
Long Legs.
Not heard of that, I don't think.
FBI agent Lee Harker is assigned to unsolve a serial killer case that untakes turns revealing evidence of the occult. So that looks really good as well.
But may I ask, have you seen, there's a film, Lars and the Real Girl?
Yes, I've seen that.
Is that good?
Yeah, with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, one of his earlier films.
Yeah, we watched a... coming off of that, very similar movie. Have you seen Life is Strange? Not Life is Strange, that's a game. Have you seen...
Life on Mars?
No, the Ricky Gervais show.
Oh, no,
Derek
Afterlife.
or Afterlife.
No, I've heard about it.
Well, the bearded bloke in that did a film where he makes a robot. And we watched that quite recently, me and my sister and her husband. And it was absolutely brilliant for this really small British comedy film. It kind of came out of nowhere. That's so obscure. Literally, yeah, he's just like a guy that's got really no friends, so he builds a wife out of this.
Oh, okay.
Out of like an old... I think it's like an old washing machine. Okay. And that is the film. And it is so brilliant. It's just like a washing machine with a doll's head on it.
Yeah.
Let me try and find the name of it. Nice. But we watched that and we were so pleasantly surprised. And there was some it's very hard, like some of it you're watching it like, and this is a really obscure movie. So the actor is called, because he does some random stuff. I can't even find him. He's not even on IMDb. That's how much of an obscure guy this is. He just doesn't exist on IMDb, and everybody's on. I'm on IMDb. I'm not. But
there are people on this pod who are on IMDb.
David Earl, it's Kev, isn't it? So he made a film. It's called Brian and Charles. Oh, it's not a woman. He makes an old man out of a...
so it's a doll's... Oh, I see the picture now. Right.
Yeah. And yeah, I won't play it. But yeah, it's just about him. He makes a friend.
We should hold up hold it full screen, the poster.
Oh yeah, there we go.
So it's like, yeah, so it's not a washing machine with a head of a woman on it, like a mannequin.
No, it's an old
actually
man.
Like a professor almost.
Yeah, and yeah, it says after a particularly harsh winter, Brian goes into a deep depression, completely isolated with no one to talk to. Brian does what any sane person would do.
When faced with such a melancholic situation,
he builds a robot.
Wow.
So yeah, I did watch it at the end of last year, but it's so good. Like it's really heartfelt. There's some really good comedy in it, but also it's so obscure.
Well, speaking of obscure, so films that we've watched recently, obviously we briefly mentioned Barbenheimer, which I love them both for completely different reasons, but I think they're equally good for me for different reasons. But Barbie has more rewatch value, but I think Oppenheimer's probably I wouldn't say necessarily a better made film because I think the Barbie's some of the choreography in that is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But they're both just masterclass in what they want to achieve.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of a masterclass in what I think it want to achieve is Poor Things. Now, we did do an Afterthoughts, you and I, about Poor Things. So I want people to check out the Afterthoughts on it. So we won't tread too much old ground on that. But it's been a bit of time since we watched Poor Things. I think it's been a month or so. We've had a bit of time to digest it. And since then, I've watched The
Let it
Favourite.
broil in our stomachs.
Yes. And I've watched The Favourite since then, so I've got a better idea of kind of Yorgos, whatever his name is directorial style is and things. Poor Things, after you watched it, like, were you excited for that film? And then now that it's been a few months, a month or so, has your opinion on it changed, improved? Like, just because it's an obscure film, I want to talk about it a bit.
Yeah, I've digested many thoughts. Digested many.
Because you want to rewatch it, don't you?
Oh, so badly. And there's a couple of times where I've been this close. Like,
but it's quite a long film. It
is a very long film, and like it's not available currently yet on any streaming services. And I think they have taken it out of the cinemas now, so I'm just waiting for that kind of lull period. I know it'll be soon. I'll be able to watch it again. But I don't know. My love for it has just grown. I keep seeing clips with Mark Ruffalo and Emma Stone and remembering sequences from it. And I'm like, that is fucking brilliant. Like any of those sequences, on any of those pictures you see on Instagram, which is just a little like snap shot of the film. And it just says the date, whatever it's got, the dialogue. Oh, I love it. But no, I think my love for it is just grown and grown. I just admire it. That it was made.
Yeah.
It was one of the things that make me love it so much is like, how the fuck did someone go into a meeting to like to these Hollywood producers and say, I'm going to make this film? Because obviously with The Lobster, it was made in as much a smaller way, in a smaller scope. So I can understand that there wasn't as much funding needed. Same with like Killing of a Sacred Deer. It was much like a small studio house film.
Yeah, and then The Favourite had quite a clear story. It's a historical event that you're just kind of telling in an obscure way.
So there's always with that, you were going to bring in people with the historical elements of it.
That's why Megan agreed to watch it. I gave her the option of 3 films the other night, and she chose The Favourite because she likes Downton Abbey and period dramas, period pieces. So that is literally a reason.
It was much more of a safer bet.
Yeah.
Emma Stone and Olivia Colman.
Yeah.
So it was a safe bet that, even if the film wasn't successful, there would have been enough people to actually make up for it. Killing with Sacred Deer, again, smaller budget. They could take more risks. Same with The Lobster. Bring in people with the actors, but maybe if the film flopped, they still make a bit of money.
Yeah.
Poor Things obviously still had powerhouse actors in it, but the film itself on paper, if I was to read that and someone say, is this going to be a film? I'd be like, how the fuck would you do that? Like, how would you...
trailer, but you watch the trailer, like, I don't understand. You watch the trailer, like, I have no idea what this film is really about. I think when you watch both trailers, you get a loose idea that Emma Stone plays as someone who's seemingly being created or made or something, and they're learning how to be in the world. That's it. That's as much as you get for it. And it's so much more intricate than that.
Yeah.
But marketing that, as you say, is like near on impossible.
Yeah, and I think like we're not saying that these films don't exist, weird films, because there is so many art house films, there are so many obscure films, but like from a Hollywood perspective, for them, all they see it is as a money cow, don't they?
Yeah, will they make the money back?
Will they make the money back? So obviously you'll see weird films made in smaller studios with smaller budgets, or sometimes they do have big budgets and people are willing to take a risk. But with this film, how it was advertised was mainstream cinema. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, because I know I saw The Lighthouse, that was marketed well, but again, not as much as like a Hollywood movie. But I feel like the advertisement for Poor Things and the advertisement around in general was really marketed to a mainstream audience.
Everyone heard, even if people hadn't seen it, everyone loosely knew Emma Stone was in a film called Poor Things.
Yeah.
Whereas when Lighthouse came out, it was some people were aware about Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe being in that film, a bit more, but any other films by those two respective directors prior to that, no idea.
But yeah, it was, and I think I just love it for it to be made is such an achievement, and I hope that cinema, because we have seen in the last couple of years, we have my opinion, and also this in some cases isn't true, but there has been a lull period where there hasn't been that many original you know, there have been, well, I'm not saying there isn't, but, you know, we have seen a lot of rehashing, a lot of similar sequences or films that just feel very cinema. Kevin Hart.
The last 5 years, I think. I think the last 5 years of film has probably been the weakest 5 years of film, at least in my lifetime, I'd say.
Yeah, there's been some real down moments, and you know,
it's the odd good film. But like you and I, when we first met and stuff, we used to go to the cinema. This was eight years ago. So you, me, and Callum used to go to the cinema. So that was 2015-ish. Yeah, I mean, COVID didn't help matters. I think COVID really skewed things, but everything was kind of building up to the streaming stuff, and now a lot of films are like just being released on streaming. And when that happens, I'm like, well, I'm not going to watch it for ages. Like Chicken Run 2. Me and Megan rewatched Chicken Run to get ready for Dawn of the Nugget. And then we're like, well, we can watch it whenever. So where's the pressure? But when it's in the cinema and you're like, oh, I want to... Like we watched the Mean Girls musical that wasn't great. But I wanted to see it in the cinema because if it was great, we're seeing a musical in the cinema or seeing a film like Dune or Oppenheimer in the cinema... When you can do that, it's a whole other experience. You get like an actual memory of watching the film more so than just you're at home in the same room you watch every film. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I love like memorizing. I can, you know, I used to go. So when Orange Wednesdays was a thing, showing my age now. I'm only 21.
You're older than me by a few months, to be fair.
It's getting worse. 7, gonna start crying now. No, I just have really clear memories, like cinema when I was younger, like those going to see Harry Potter and waiting to see Avatar and
Star Wars Force Awakens. That wasn't when I was a kid, but that was nearly a decade ago. But when I saw that, I remember it vividly.
And I remember seeing Phantom Menace and going to Toys R Us after, you know where Odeon is in town, and then going to Toys R Us after and seeing all the toys with the little things you could do the voices. But I have such fond memories. And Orange Wednesdays, me and my dad, before obviously we were friends in 2015, 14. Me and my dad, for years, every Wednesday, without fail, we went to SimWorld and Ocean Village, and we'd see whatever movie. And me and my dad, I remember one of the best experiences I had for my cinema was when Zack Snyder's The Watchmen came out. I think it was 2006. So I was 12.
Yeah.
Was I 12? Yeah.
Jesus Christ. You watched it when it came out?
Yeah. So I went to a midnight screening when I was 12, right? Midnight screening to see The Watchmen. If you've ever seen The Watchmen.
I think it's 2008.
Is it 2008?
I think you were 14.
Okay.
But still.
Okay. I think it's 2008.
I remember watching it on DVD shortly after it came out, and I was only 15 or 16, so which still was probably too young.
Yeah, no, I'm not even going to check. But it's around those years. So I was around, 15. And I went to see a midnight screening with my dad to see Watchmen, which is a crazy movie, one of my favourite movies of all time. And I just remember being so excited to go to my first midnight screening of a film. I don't know how I got in. They must have just thought, this kid's up late, fucking let him in. Like, if he's stayed awake from school all this time, this guy has to be worth seeing this movie.
Also, when we were younger, it was nowhere near as tight. I think when we were teenagers, when I got to about 15, 16, I think that's when IDs for tobacco or films or games really ramped up.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my fondest memories is going to. I remember when we went to Odeon Silver Screening, and we were hoping it was one thing which. So, if anyone outside the UK, Odeon and a lot of cinemas do this thing where you pay like it's like a £5 or £6, and then one film out of 5 will randomly show. It's basically like they normally say it's an upcoming film or it's one that's done the film circuits or stuff.
Yeah.
And you get to watch it like a month or two before it's released for the
preview
general
screenings.
Yeah, it's normally released, film circuits, then there's a gap, then it's general release. And it was a silver screen thing, and it's the only one I've ever done, I think. You and I, there were like 5 films that it could have been. And we were like, there's one film. If this is 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, we were like, come on. And we got in there and we were waiting for the thing to start. And then the title card came up and we're like, yes! Because I love that Martin McDonagh is in Bruges. It's just
Didn't they give us the Maltesers chocolate bar as well? Was that another time?
No, I think that was a different time.
Because they're probably a shit film, so like, here's some chocolate, fill up on, because the film's wank.
Because you've done the silver screen thing a couple of times.
All the time. Like, I saw the Heat premiere, Heat magazine. I don't know if that's still a thing these days, but I must seem so old shouting out all of these things. Shout out to yo-yos.
my dudes. I mean, to be fair, if you're talking about AOL dial-up collection, I think that'll age us a bit more.
Oh man, I don't even remember the Flintstones movie when they went to Las Vegas. Wow. I was in the cinema to see that. Oh man, Christ. I'm going to start talking about some new films and say, I was so young, just come out of school and saw Avatar 2.
I mean, I remember seeing Avatar, but to be fair, we've seen, because of things like Barbenheimer, that's going to be an event. That's like a thing. Seeing Star Wars in the cinema, seeing Infinity War, and like Barbenheimer, they're some of the big, Dune maybe, they're some of the bigger things which are going to be like, people are going to be bragging about that in a few years' time. They're going to be like, oh, I was there when I saw Barbenheimer, you guys don't even get it. Like whatever the next, I think Gen Alpha, I think when they grow up, or maybe Gen Beta, I assume, when they grow up and they watch Barbie like Gen Z have been watching Shrek. That's there's going to be Gen Z as an older being like, oh, I was there, I saw Barbenheimer in the cinema,
I'm going to shout out everybody that ever did a school nativity or school, they did the plays at the end of the year. Just to shout out for Shrek. So another weird movie memory I have is I have a couple where I'm like really vivid remember of watching it at a specific time. I was in junior school, and obviously every year had a specific part in the play for the end of the year. But while we were waiting for our part, it must have been a Tuesday evening, stayed at school later than we've ever have done. And we were all watching Shrek. I was talking to my sister about this the other day, and you all just sit there in your costumes and they've got a little rolling TV and everyone's watching Shrek. And then they'll pause it and they'll go, it's your time. And then you all go up and do your bit, and then you come back and get picked up. But I have such vivid memories of just sit there in my costume. I can't remember what I played. I thought I was banging. It turns out, absolute dog shit.
Never got asked about it again.
Yeah. I also recently had a memory with my sister talking about it, that I nearly was the lead in a school of Oliver Twist, or I thought I was going to be lead in the school Oliver Twist production.
Yeah.
I was convinced because I heard a ooh when I did my audition.
Yeah,
they were like more, and I was like more, and they were like ooh, and I was like, I've got it. My mum's gonna be so proud. And then I waited, and I was lead broomstick dancer. Lead dancer with a broom. That was my position. But yeah, I just have this really vivid memory of just watching Shrek. And I love those. Like, one of the first films I ever remember watching, I don't know how I need to ask my dad about this. So my dad, there's a really, really funny picture of me and my twin sister. As soon as we came out of hospital, we must have been a couple of weeks old. My dad has got a picture of us in our little cots in front of the TV. Because my dad, movies is his life. Movies and TV is his life. Doctor Who, shout out.
Doctor Who.
Shout out Doctor Who.
His Doctor Who fandom makes my Star Wars fandom look like I've only seen the films, nothing else. Like the comparison there.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it's just crazy. But yeah, one of the films that I remember watching so young was one of the first films that I just ever remember watching was American Werewolf in London. And I'm convinced I watched this film when I was 4 years old.
Wow.
Because I had a recurring nightmare of being in an alleyway with a fucking werewolf, which is the end of the movie. And I swear to God, I was 4 years old when I watched that damn movie. I'm going to ask my dad. Also, a really funny story, quickly off the books about movies. So I have so many. So it was, 2002, Jackass did the movie, 2001.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
So we weren't able to see it in the cinema because we were way too young, obviously.
And that's the kind of film where you would be stopped to try and go in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So my dad was like, okay, I'm going to buy it for you on DVD. So back in the day, my dad used to leave a lot of the presents at my granddad's. So obviously he'd bought it for us, but then left it at my granddad's. And then my granddad, who was about 94, 95, just decided one evening that he was going to check it out to see what it was like. Imagine a 95-year-old man. And he put on Jackass, the movie.
And that was, 15 years ago? Plus?
And he was mortified. He told my dad I was never allowed to watch it. So my dad put it in the garage for about 3 years. And then when we were able to watch it, I don't know how old we were, my dad would like pause it, skip over any bit with like a penis or shit in it, and then play a little bit. So we only watched about 25 minutes of the whole film. And then eventually we did watch all of it. But like, I just remember, I can imagine my granddad just sitting down, because he was quite a brawly man, bold as shit, just sat there with my nan, who was about the same age. You know, they never left the country. Like my granddad was a war vet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then to turn on the TV and see two massive cocks in plentiful throughout the fucking thing, I don't know what happened. Like he might have had like PTSD flashbacks from the war.
Oh God!
And was just like, can you imagine? Like, war films didn't get him, but Jackass did.
Yeah, they triggered that flight or flight response more.
Yeah. But oh man, I can imagine my granddad's, rest in peace. But Christ, it was funny. But I love those movie memories. That's why it's always been a big thing for me.
Well, one of the things with Star Wars that connects with me so much is because I remember Dad watching, I think it was ITV or something like that. Every Friday, it was basically Spielberg movies of like, it was the Jurassic Park movies when there were the three Indiana Jones movies, the 3 Star Wars movies, and then they eventually did the prequels on there as well.
Yeah.
E.T. and a few others. So really, it was like every 4 months, it would almost go in a cycle, these collection of these really great films. I think Jaws is normally on there as well. So I just always remember Dad reading a newspaper or a book with Indiana Jones on in the background or Star Wars on the background, that kind of thing. And I remember those things. I can't really remember my first movie memory. I remember the first movie that gave me a nightmare was Jurassic Park. I watched, because when the giant T-Rex comes out, the Velociraptors, I didn't watch that bit, but I was about 6, I think. And I just remember having a nightmare about it and freaking out. And I think I either liked dinosaurs before that, or I liked dinosaurs, or my parents just took me to museums with loads of dinosaurs, because I remember specifically, very shortly after that, interacting with one of those animatronic T-Rexes.
Yeah.
Like, and the ones that, there's a museum somewhere in the UK where you walk past it, like quite close. It's not a very big
Park.
No, I did. No, I did used to go through the dinosaur walk there. I think that's gone now. But I did used to do the dinosaur walk there. But I mean, it was a museum, a history museum of some sort. But one of the rooms was like, it was all dark, and there's an animatronic T-Rex. And you kind of walk quite close to it, past it. It didn't freak me out, and I was fine with that. And then I think that shook me out. Weirdly enough, a child watching a T-Rex on TV did give me nightmares, but seeing a real life animatronic one didn't.
Yeah, no.
It cured me.
No. Also, 1994, shout out the best year for films ever made.
I mean, we got Lion King, Shawshank Redemption.
Also, I will say, Jurassic Park came out in 1995, but it was like made in 1994.
Yeah, well,
I'm taking it.
But I think it was released in 94 in like film circuits or something. Because I think when you look on IMDb, it says 94.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I always think that Trainspotting's 94. It's actually 95.
But yeah, look at it. 1994, best year for old school films.
Either that,
changed in the last
that or
couple
99.
Huh?
1999 and 1994.
Yeah,
I think those are the 2 best years in our lifetimes of films.
Yeah, but yeah, shout out
to those. So just we'll start to sort of get there. Let's try it again. We'll start to wrap up soonish. But so we've talked about quite a few of the films. I want to talk about 2 more things. One is Dune, and then one is any other films we've loosely watched in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So Dune Part 2, we won't spoil it because it's only been out for a short period of time, and I'll probably release this quite soon. We just watched Dune Part 2. I watched Dune Part 1 and the 84 Dune for a podcast with Scott Weatherly, 20th Century Geek, which I think is going to be out the week of this recording, so it should be out very soon. I'll put a link in the show notes. I enjoyed Dune Part 1 when I first watched it. I rewatched it and liked it a lot. I really, really enjoyed it on the second watch. So we came out the cinema earlier today, and we watched Dune Part 2, which I think is longer, and we both enjoyed it, but I think you enjoyed it more than I did. But I think it's going to take time for me to process it, because there is so much, and a lot of it's dialogue.
Yeah.
But just briefly, without sort of spoiling, you enjoyed Dune Part 2.
Yeah, I think my expectations were lower than yours going into it.
And mine were higher because I'd heard everyone saying it changed.
Yeah, I heard very positive things, but I wasn't 100% I thought the first movie is very good. Technically wise, it's a beautiful movie. The dialogue was very good. I just found the storytelling a bit, don't know.
It wasn't all exposition, almost all dialogue.
Yeah, and it wasn't that engaging.
The characters aren't very appealing.
So I wasn't too fussed. I think it's a tremendous movie. I think it's a very good movie. Like, I'm being very picky here. But then, yeah, lower expectations to watch this movie. And I think for this film, this is the film that I wanted with the first one, of the epic scale and how they set it up and how they kept the story going and moving forward, and the paceness. I said to you, I think it's the fastest 3-hour movie I've personally ever seen. I feel like I started to feel like it was wrapping up about 10 minutes before the end, and I was like, oh wow, like
we're here already.
We're here already. This film's like 2 hours and 47 minutes, and we're here already. Like, that's mad. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it was a tremendous improvement from the first one. I think the storytelling was better. The visuals were unbelievable. And this is going to be said absolutely a million times on the internet. People are going to be saying exactly the same stuff as us. I guarantee
and they already started. That's kind of why I liked it. I thought it was great. I can't decide if I prefer the first one or not. But I did say, what I'm thinking about now is I think the acting steps up in this, because Zendaya is kind of in it, because the first one she's barely in it. But also Timothée Chalamet really shows an emotional range in this. In the first film, he was basically just deadpan almost the whole time, apart from when he shouts at Lady Jessica about 2/3 through when she's talking about the prophecy and he gets mad about it. And that's one of my favourite scenes from part one. But in this, his emotional range, he shouts in certain scenes, he gets emotional in others, and the action is a lot more consistent and, in my opinion,
fantastic.
Better. Things are paid off more. There are several villains because it's, loads of houses clashing, but the villain played by the guy who plays Elvis in the Elvis movie, like you said afterwards, he was like one of the best villains in recent years in cinema.
In a 12-way.
Just immediately, like he is so brutal and despicable, and you just feel it straight away.
Yeah.
That power.
For a 12A movie, he is one of the best, like, portrayed, threatening and gnarly bastards.
Yeah.
In modern cinema for a 12A. Like, we've also seen other films that are older, and the introduction to the villain is crazy. But this, for a 12A, I was like, they're really pushing it. Because I said to you before, I was like, I wish this film was older, because like 12A sometimes can be a bit hit or miss, right? Like, I wish like
PG-13 in America.
PG-13, yeah. So, but yeah, I think they've really pushed the boundaries. So I was really happy with that, because sometimes I feel like 12As don't hit the sometimes the mark on emotional levels and stuff.
That's what Venom did and stuff. The problem, like, I enjoy the Venom movies, but I accept they're not actually that great as movies. I just enjoy them. But one of the problems is Venom couldn't decide if it wanted to be R-rated like Deadpool or accessible like Spider-Man, and it kind of just sits in the middle and doesn't do enough of either.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't embrace it.
That's the problem
enough.
with both Venom films. They toe the line too much. Venom. The best part of Venom 2 is the buddy comedy stuff. And if they just made it a comedy, it would actually be a really good film.
And they did an extended edition where they had more conversation. People would way more enjoy the damn film.
But instead, you just got lots of carnage, CGI monsters.
I hate the second one so bad. Yeah. But yeah, Dune. I'd recommend it.
I agree.
Incredible.
I think all the acting's better in it. I think the sound design's flawless. I think when we were in the cinema, there's a sandworm bit, and in the cinema, our seats were like almost shaking.
It was crazy. That was unreal.
You don't get that at home.
No. That was another. Yeah, if you want to do that, just sit on something that's either uncomfortable or something that's got a stone under it, so you kind of wobble.
Or do like Alex and sit on a milky star, a magic star. You sound a bit of chocky, didn't you?
Yeah.
Your own chocky as well.
I was let down by a milky star during the film.
When you're eating.
Because this is a relatable issue. You can't just have one milky star. You need to have at least a couple in your hand.
M&Ms, anything that's chocolate.
Other than Maltesers, I think there's a level where it could get dangerous with Maltesers if you pour them out. But yeah, milky stars, I poured a load in my hand, didn't realise one of the bastards had fallen down between my legs. It was about 15 minutes into the film, realised my phone was between my legs, went to move it, and I was like, oh, wow, I've shat myself. But actually, it was just melted chocolate all over my gooch. And yeah, I just washed these trousers as well. So I was saying to Mike on the way out, I was like, can you look? Because like I made it look like I've just shat myself.
Yeah, I had to do a butt check. I had to look underneath Alex as he was walking.
Yeah. I was trying to do it at the urinal, and the guy next to me thought I was looking at his dick, probably. So I was like, okay, I'm going to wait to do this. I'm just genuinely trying to find out if I've just got melted chocolate on my gooch, to be honest. Also, we haven't... did we explain the story of what happened? No, before the cinema.
Oh, God, no. Yeah, this is me.
We've been to the cinema a million times. This never happened to me once. But this was brilliant. Go on, explain what happened.
Okay, so we basically did a float tank thing before sensory deprivation tank. I got Alex a gift for his birthday. I've done it a couple of times. I had Jared Speed on the podcast, spoke about it, blah. So we did that, and then I was like, okay, I'll book the cinema for a time that makes sense, okay? The session ends at 12-ish, but we wouldn't be out there till like 12:15. So I'll book the cinema tickets for 1:30. That gives us enough time to have something to eat, have a breather, and then go to the cinema. For some reason, what I thought I did, even though I'm a planner, and I always plan ahead and make sure I've got enough time for this kind of event, what I did was I thought I'd book the tickets for 12:30. So I rushed me and Alex into the cinema, to rush into Greg's, to grab a couple of pastries, just to eat on the way to the cinema, to get in. Well, I showed the person our ticket on my phone and stuff. She was like, yeah, screen 5, go ahead, okay. We were there at, I think it was 12:20-ish. And the film, in my mind, started at 12:30. It started at 1:30. But this woman let us in We go into the cinema. The screen's basically empty by like 5-6 people.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, there's a trailer on. Okay, so we go and sit down in our seats, which obviously no one's in there. Fortunately, imagine if there were.
I was just about to say that. Can you imagine if it's 1 hour 45 minutes into this film, and we walk in and go, we're meant to be sat there. They'd be like, there's 20 minutes left of the film. Can you sit anywhere else? And we're like, no, we're meant to be sat here. Imagine.
But then I would have looked at my phone and seen that, because that's what happened. We sat down and then we were like, this trailer's a bit long. And then we're like, this feels like just a scene from a film. And near the end of the film. And then I double checked the ticket and I had booked for 1:30 and I was convinced. So I was like, oh, Alex, no, it's weird to leave. We came into a movie. I don't know what the other movie viewers were thinking. They watched a rom-com movie with Sydney Sweeney. I think it's called The One I Chose or something like that.
Fuck knows.
And it was like this rom-com film that we walked into with like 15 minutes left. We sit down for like 3 minutes and are muttering to each other. And then we get up and then just leave. And people must be thinking, what the these guys are getting in a bit late. Getting into this film. But the woman didn't tell us.
Man.
And there was a guy when we walked into the cinema.
Yeah.
There's one of like the ushers. And I saw him. And I thought he was going to double check our tickets. Because I thought, oh, it's June, is going to be really busy.
Just let us walk
and he just
through.
let us walk straight in. And I'm like, why didn't you, or the woman who let us into the cinema, when she saw our ticket, went, oh, yeah, screen 5 over there. Why didn't she say, your film doesn't start for another hour and 10 minutes. There's another film playing in there right now.
Yeah, you can't go in there at the moment. There's another film playing.
But they just let us in.
No,
no one stopped us.
No, I walked in with my Milky Stars head held high. I was well excited. I was like, whoa, sweet.
And then we just left. Well, I treated Alex to a coffee because he spent £4 on Milky Stars in a.
Yeah, because before we were in a rush, I was like, oh, I need something sweet.
Yeah, instead of them being about £1 where they normally are. So I bought you a coffee to kind of even it out a little bit.
Thank you.
And then we went back in there. And obviously we were like, well, I guess at least we know where our seats are because we literally sat in them like an hour ago.
Oh man,
yeah, that was embarrassing.
That was,
but that's a story. That's a movie memory story that you don't get for watching for streaming at home.
No, exactly, and you don't get Milky Stars all over your ass as well.
You might do actually, but then you'd get it on your own sofa.
Yeah,
so it's actually
fuming,
more damage there.
Yeah, true.
But Dune was amazing, really enjoyable.
Dune is and 10/10.
Last sort of things. Are there any films over the last 2 years that you can think of that came out on streaming that you watched in the cinema? A film that you watched for the first time in the last couple of years, or a film you rewatched that you haven't watched in ages that you kind of want to shout out almost?
The Holdovers was probably my favourite film from last year.
Nice. Over Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I adored that movie. Me and my sister and her husband watched it around Christmas time. I can consider it probably a Christmas movie because there's some of the themes within it.
Nice.
A beautiful movie. The writing is impeccable. I think it's a tremendous movie.
Because I want to watch
really
it after Sideways.
Yeah.
Paul Giovanni and same director, isn't it? As well. Yeah.
And I'm not too sure, but I think that's the film I would recommend. If I was to recommend the film to anybody currently to watch something, if you're looking to watch something that's like nice, heartfelt with some really good comedy in it and some good like a people film, cinematography is fantastic. That's what I would probably recommend, just as like a nice movie. I can't think of any other films to recommend off the top of my head.
Well, I recently rewatched Moon, which is one of my favourite sci-fi films of all time. I love that. Sam Rockwell is probably my favourite actor. I would say
when he's in something, he's in it, and I love it.
I think if Sam Rockwell is probably, as well as James McAvoy and maybe DiCaprio, are the only actors where if they're in a film, I'd almost guarantee watch it.
Yeah, definitely.
DiCaprio's not in that many films, and pretty much he's always an amazing film. I think his worst film's The Revenant, but you obviously love that film and it's critically acclaimed. So I
do enjoy that movie. I don't know if it's his best movie,
but like DiCaprio, he's not in as many films. But like, although I'll tell you what, Timothée Chalamet, I haven't seen Wonka on it, and you quite enjoyed Wonka, didn't you? You said that was a good movie.
I fucking love that movie.
So
just the happy movie
is because Chalamet's a weird one because obviously he's in Dune and he's great in Dune, and he's in Don't Look Up as that character that's really great that you love. Then he's in he's in quite a lot of films, Chalamet, at the moment.
Yeah, Don't Look Up. Is it Don't Look Up?
Yeah, that's the one. But I don't necessarily rate him as an actor, but I don't know if that's just because all the roles I've seen him do. I mean, Don't Look Up's a bit different, but I feel like the roles I've seen him do so far are quite similar. But because you've seen Wonka, I wonder if I'm
I think he's getting to a point where he can kind of flex his acting chops a little bit. He has been typecast, and because he's really good looking, he's easy to fill as the main lead. But he is a tremendous actor, and I think it's sometimes underlooked. Like I think they just see him as a piece of meat.
Almost.
Yeah. But I actually think he's becoming, and I think there was a couple times in Dune where I was like, oh, I didn't expect that kind of acting out of him.
Especially Dune Part 2.
Yeah, Dune Part 2 definitely was like some of his skills really shone. And to be fair, if he was maybe suggested for an Oscar, I don't think he would win an Oscar, but I think he could be up there with a tremendous performance.
I think Javier Bardem was the best in Dune Part 2.
Oh, yeah.
I think Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica did a really good job as well, but she didn't have as much screen time as in the first one.
No.
But her character change was quite interesting. I liked the dynamic between her and Paul, but I think, for me, every time Javier Bardem was on screen, stole the show for me. Josh Brolin did a great job as well, but I love Javier Bardem. Anything I see, I feel like he's not actually in that much. I've only seen him in No Country, Pirates of the Caribbean 5 or whatever. Megan's seen him in The Sea Inside, the Little Mermaid remake, June. I feel like there's one or two others, but is he in that many films? Have you? Because I feel like he's only in one film every year or two.
Yeah.
Well, it might just be because he did a series I haven't seen and disappeared off.
I have to figure that.
Cool. Well, you say that. I think me.
Yeah, what's yours?
I think it's probably Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. I wouldn't say that's the best film I've seen.
No.
But I just think it's a film I want to shout out because, I watch a lot of big blockbusters. I've seen a lot of Marvel films that are cool, but none of them have really wowed me. I thought the Marvels was cracking, but not phenomenal. And then I think Deadpool Wolverine's going to be a banger. But
yeah, for sure.
Dune Part 1 and Part 2, I know Part 1 came out a few years ago. Brilliant films, but they are kind of what you expect. They do exceed expectations because they're so well made. But if you've seen Dune Part 1, you kind of know what you're getting in Dune Part 2 thematically and film-wise. Yeah. And then Barbenheimer, I love Barbie, I love Oppenheimer. They were two definitely highlights of the last 5 years. But I think that Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, the reason I would name that is because it was a film I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah.
It's just got a lot of heart and not a lot of people have seen it. It's not the kind of film that everyone's going to watch.
No.
But I think it's the kind of film that everyone kind of should watch.
Yeah, I think so. You showed it to me. I thought it was fantastic.
One of the very few films that I can show you because you've seen almost everything.
Yeah, very good movie though. That's a really nice suggestion. Yeah, so my movie would be very similar. I don't think a lot of people think around under the radar.
Yeah, I'm going to try and watch Holdovers. So I love a people film. I think it's so hard to watch a bad people film.
No.
Yeah. Awesome. I think that wraps us up. It's a solid pretty much hour. So thank you, Alex, for obviously being around us going and watching Dune and stuff. And thank you for asking me to do a movie pod because I always love chatting movies.
When I'm in town, man about town.
What? When you're in town, you're a man about town?
Yep, go get business done.
Right, the movie business. the movie business.
The X-video movie business.
But do you want to see your Instagram to people? If people are fussed, I can put it in the show notes. If not, you don't have to.
Yeah.
If people want to see your photos, you don't want to. You don't have to. There's several guests I have that have no social media, so we can just claim that.
Yeah, I have social media, but it's mainly just travelling stuff. You're not going to.
And he doesn't want you to find him.
Yeah. I'm a very elusive man.
Yeah, that's why he comes to my podcast.
And hopefully none of my students see this podcast.
No, I'm going to send it to the school though.
Please do not.
I'm going to put on a USB stick, several USB sticks, and just post them in all the letterboxes across the school. And I'm going to throw them while class is in session. I'm going to attach USB sticks to bricks and throw them into the
can you imagine?
The school.
It's an assault.
But also, do you know how much buzz there would be around where you work if that actually happened?
Oh yeah,
and you would probably get blamed for it as well.
Oh yeah, definitely would. You're trying to spread your podcast. Yeah,
we would immediately get interviewed by the police.
Yeah,
but we're not going to do that.
No.
But thank you, Alex, so much. Thank you, friends, for listening and tuning in. Follow me at Genuine Chit-Chat and all the usual places. Subscribe, share, tell us what you thought about movies and stuff like that. And if you'd like to, subscribe on Patreon because there's some exclusive Alex content on there. There's three films I think you and I have done on Afterthoughts. There was The Northman, there was Poor Things, and there was another one that I can't remember.
Yes.
It was a weird dark film, I think. But friends, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we appreciate you, and we'll speak to you very soon. Bye.
Bye. Bless me.
I'll cut that out.
Continue.
I'm going to write that 13 sneeze.
Keep it on there. It's the content they want to see.
People hate hearing people sneeze. Maybe I'll cut it at the end then. Pop it at the end for fun. But
got it.
And lots of fun stuff at the end.
Sorry, I'm making it way more hard for your job.
Oh no, this is fine. I mean, I'm going to be adding loads of random things at the end just to see what I have to go into.
The blue tack. Thank you for putting this in front of me though, because I've been fiddling with this since the start of it.
I know.
And you see me in the cinema, I'm like,
yeah, I put that there specifically because I thought Alex is going to want to fiddle with something, and I thought the fidget cube I have is going to be too loud.
That sounds awful. Please edit that out
at the end of the podcast as well. And that's the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, my friends, if you want to hear more from Alex, your only options are to go back and listen to episodes 3, 10, and 77 of Genuine Chit-Chat, or subscribing to Patreon. That is patreon.com/genuine chit-chat. You can subscribe from the lowest tier, which is only £1 a month. You get access to immediately all the afterthoughts, all the bonus episodes, all that content. There's over 200 episodes there. And I think for 3 of them, Alex and I do afterthoughts of movies we watched. There's Northman we did, Poor Things, and there's another one from a little while ago. So check that out if you desire. What have I got going on? Well, I've been quite busy. There's quite a few guest spots I've done. So I recently did a guest spot on Mandatory Music and CD with Tony Farina, Max Byrne, and Dave. We spoke Weezer. So that's on its own feed, but it's also on the feed of Comics in Motion, and there's a link in the description. So check that out if you're into music and you want to hear a little bit more about Weezer. In addition to that, I also featured on the VHS Strikes Back. That's also with Dave, but it's also with Chris, who are also the podfathers of Comics in Motion. And we spoke about Trainspotting, which is a very, very dear movie to my heart. So we speak about that ad nauseum, and it was great fun. Again, on the feed of the VHS Strikes Back, wherever you're listening to podcasts, and a link to that is in the description. Also, if you haven't checked it out, make sure you check out episode 1000 of Comics in Motion. You never have to have listened to anything on Comics in Motion before. It serves as the perfect introduction to the podcast feed, but also a great celebration of the prior 6 years of podcasting on that I'm very, very grateful to have been a part of. And for the future of Comics in Motion, it's going to be a lot of fun. So it's a bumper episode, just a bunch of friends chatting nonsense and reminiscing about the prior 6 years of podcasting. Really, really great conversation there. You can watch the video version at youtube.com/genuine chit-chat, or you can just listen to the audio version on the feed of Comics in Motion. There are plenty more guest spots coming up over the year. I've got a guest spot which will be out in the coming weeks on the 20th Century Geeks podcast, which is Scott Wortherly, where we spoke about Dune 1984 and Dune Part 1. So great stuff leading up to Dune Part 2, which obviously from this conversation you know I have already seen. I've also got some collaborations sorted with Spider-Dan in the coming, I think, month or two as well, so very excited for those. Coming up on Genuine Chit-Chat, so I've got recordings due. Next week is a conversation I've got due with my cousin's wife, and we're going to talk about dog behaviour stuff, because she is a specialist. We meant to do it late last year, but because of health reasons we had to delay it, but no problem at all. She's family, so she can just come on whenever she wants. So that's really exciting stuff. Also, Chris of the VHS Strikes Back, and also Comics in Motion, I'm having him on the podcast to talk about Vegas, because myself and Megan, we're going to Las Vegas for our wedding in August of 2024, and we've got a few other things planned there, and Chris loves going to Vegas, so we're going to talk to him about Vegas quite a lot in that episode as well. However, next week the episode is going to be a collaboration special. So I've done podcasts in the past with a gentleman named Ike of Ike's Flame. He's a really, really positive force in the Star Wars community, and I really love chatting to him. He reached out and wanted me to do a conversation with him about Star Wars and spirituality. Now, you may remember from, I think it's last year, 2023, that Ike came on the podcast and we spoke about Star Wars and spirituality kind of from his perspective in a lot of ways. Well, he kind of took that to heart. He's been thinking about it quite a lot since we had that conversation. He's spoken to other people on his podcast about it, and he reached out and wanted to have another round of talking about Star Wars and spirituality. So we spoke about that, and because he reached out, I thought it was fair to put it on his feed, but also selfishly, I wanted some of it on my feed as well. So what we've done is we have split it. So part 1 and part 2 will be on the feed of Ike's Flame, where you can listen to on any podcast app, and then part 3 will be on this feed. Now, once my episode drops, I will have details of Ike's episodes in the description as well, so you can check those out very easily, but it's going to be a Star Wars-centric podcast, but it is also about spirituality in a lot of ways, and I talk about my spiritual journey, so even if you're not fussed by Star Wars in itself, it's still a really, really great conversation. And then the subsequent weeks, I'll release one of the conversations with either Chris or Paige, and then after that, I'll probably release one of my Clone Wars conversations, because I've got another one in the bank, Clone Wars Season 2 Part 2, which I did with Dave and Maff, and I'm doing that at least once a month, and in addition to that, there's a very secret special Patreon thing coming out as well, which I'm very, very excited to unleash. It's going to be called M&M Monthly. So it's myself and Megan talking for half an hour about random topics that people can submit. So you can choose what Megan and I speak about, and also I'm going to be releasing them on Patreon, but then a month later I will be releasing them on my main feed. So you guys will be getting 2 monthly shows, Clone Wars Conversations and M&M Monthly, and then 2 kind of interview style shows in amidst those each month of Genuine Chit-Chat for the year of 2024. So loads of content coming from me. Make sure you subscribe in the usual places. Please share, please leave reviews. If you're listening on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. It really means a lot to me, and it really helps bolster up the profile of this podcast. It means I can get more exciting guests on the show, and it really helps me out and also makes me happy. So please do it if you enjoy this podcast that I release for free. 5-star rating on Spotify if you're listening there. Doesn't take too long, so appreciate that. Or on Apple Podcasts, or on Audible, or really anywhere that lets you leave reviews and stuff. Please do that. I would hugely, hugely appreciate it. And if you are listening on YouTube, please subscribe. Please look at some of the the other episodes I've done. Check out the playlists. Check out the other stuff I've got going on. I would really, really appreciate it. But friends, that's going to be enough from me. Just follow me on social media at Genuine Chit-Chat as usual. Do all the usual things I've said. Check out all the guest spots I've done. They're great fun with some incredible other podcasters. And I will talk to you next week with Ike's Flame Part 3. And then also following that, there's going to be Vegas talk. There's going to be dog behavioral talks, more Star Wars stuff, loads of stuff to get your teeth into. But thank you for listening as always, my friends, and I'll talk to you very soon.